Mỗi nhau gần thấy mình đưa về hậu bị gai. Mỗi nhau gần thấy mình đưa về hậu bị gai. Mỗi nhau gần thấy mình đưa về hậu bị gai. Mỗi nhau gần thấy mình đưa về hậu bị gai.
Hello again. Yeah, I know it's been long, but you know what? I had my midterms, and then I had spring break, and then it was my roommate's birthday, and then I went to Disneyland, and I really felt Disneyland yesterday. And then today, I didn't have anything to do, so I did a whole lot of writing, and then I went on YouTube and caught up on some videos I hadn't been watching, and whatnot, and excuses. Yeah, crappy excuses. Okay. As promised, here is part 2 of my article, my rules, I suppose, of romance fiction that can apply to really any fiction, but apply most to romance fiction, because frankly I think romance fiction could be better. It's not. Mostly because anytime an author tries to do something that's different, they get told that's too different. It's not formulaic enough, which is sad, because I'd read more romance fiction if it were less formulaic. Also, if you notice my voice going out, I wrote Tower of Terror, I wrote California Screamin', and I screamed like a little girl, you know, so that's why my voice is gone, if you can hear it. Enough bitching, and enough excuses. Part 2, stereotype and pacing. Warning you against stereotypical plot lines for a romance novel is like warning a bus driver about pedestrians. Stereotype is a staple of popular romance fiction, but that doesn't mean you should sell your soul to it. There are 3 commonly accepted themes in romance novel writing. Unfortunately, I can't seem to find them at the moment, but I know they've been listed. I'm also way too lazy to go look it up right now. They're there. These 3 can be divvied into separate categories involving all types of relationships, but just about any theme in a story can be thrown into one of these categories. Now, just because these are staples doesn't mean that you should only stick to that. Don't fall into the trap of switching out character names and superficial characteristics and then slotting them into the same stories over and over. I know a couple people who do this. It's incredibly annoying, and anytime they come up to me and tell me they have a new story, it's like, wow, so the same 2 characters go through somewhat similar events, but they have different hair colors. Got it. Okay. I'll make sure not to read that story. As much as I hate to say that. Basically, the standard guy meets girl, guy fucks girl, guy and girl fall in love, you know, yawn. There's already enough formulaic romance out there already. Maybe your characters meet in a mental hospital, or a gay rally, or a freedom march, or maybe working together on a hospital night shift. Granted, this is not going to make your story original, but it's just some thoughts and ideas. You know, have fun, guys. Let the story take a life of its own without following a tried-and-true formula, because the real readers, the ones you want to impress, are going to roll their eyes and go in search of something far more original. Of course, you know, all the 14-year-old girls are going to love it, but the people that you want to impress are going to giggle. You know, you want respect, write something that will be unique and interesting. Well, that and have skill, but we'll start with unique and interesting for now. Another thing to worry about is pacing, and I'm going to admit this right now so that nobody thinks that I'm up on a high horse. My pacing is terrible. I go way too fast. I'm constantly having to tell myself to slow down Speed Racer, as well as my editors having to tell me that. So, just to let you know that, it's a problem for a lot of people. Pacing is the rate at which your story unfolds. Tolkien would be described as having a slow-paced story, and critics, and myself, would say that it hurt his writing, whereas New Age writers have a much faster pace. I would recommend keeping a moderate pace in the beginning, letting events unfold as they will. Now, I could write an entire article about pacing, but for this, we're going to break it down and explain why one of the major faults in amateur romance writing. Gosh, I cannot read out loud. Also, I will be doing a separate video strictly dedicated to pacing because it is a huge topic that needs to be covered, especially for the amateurs out there. You love your characters, right? You want them to be together, right? You just can't be bothered writing chapters and scenes of build-up as they fall in love. You have to get right to the good part. Well, I'm afraid this hurts more than it helps. It will jar your audience to see two people suddenly falling in love and pledging eternal devotion after only having known each other for a little while, and, unless your characters are prone to one-night stands, having sex immediately. Pacing the development and rate at which your characters interact makes the intimacy between them that much more memorable. Take your time, kids. Shoot, I remember one of the best romance stories I ever read. Two of the characters that I really wanted to see together didn't actually lock lips until chapter 18, and these were very long chapters. When they did lock lips, I cried. That is how invested into the story and these characters I was. They didn't actually have sex for the entire story. The other couple did, but they didn't. They did one third base scene, and then they left it at that, and then they finally had sex at the end, but it was never talked about, really, except that the girl was pregnant. It was one of the most romantic things I've ever read. I actually rather preferred them to the other couple, even though I liked the other couple. Just as an extra, another extra, yay, to another video, I have found categories, you know, like the different subsets and the different genres. So while I can't find the 3 themes, I know like one of them is like hate begets love, true love. Like there's just the 3 main categories. I have found formats. There's category romance, and then there's single title romances. And category romance, usually no more than 200 pages. It's generally the size of a novel, you know, 55,000 words. And then the single title romances are more. They're longer. They're more like the, hey, this is my one shot, blah blah blah. There are sub-genres. There's contemporary romance, set after World War II, generally speaking. Historical romance set before World War II. They consider anything before World War II to be historical romance. Romantic suspense, you know. There's paranormal romance. That's actually my favorite, although it's getting to be a little annoying. Science fiction romance is starting to take over my favorites. But I need to see more of it. Fantasy romance, time travel romance, inspirational romance, multicultural romance, erotic romance. So yeah, that's generally like what you have to work with. But again, you know, try to have fun. Try to go nuts. Next week, what will we be covering next week? Let me check. Mary Sue's and the Damsel in Distress. My favorite. I can't wait. It's probably not going to be next week. In fact, I'm probably going to record it as soon as I finish this, but whatever. This has been Jack, and I'll see you next time. Bye.